Welcome to Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Bobby Pominville and I'm your reporter on the arts. Today I'm visiting the Caminito Art Studio and I have invited a guest to come and talk to us from her studio. We're going to view a lot of her artwork. So welcome to the show, Genie.
Thank you.
This is Genie Taylor Ebertz. And she is actually a multimedia artist. I wanted to say it was sculpture, but she does so much more. And you will learn about that during the show today. So first of all, could you explain why your studio is called the Caminito Art Studio?
Okay, yes. Caminito actually means small road in Spanish. I'm originally from Argentina, and I am from Buenos Aires, which is the capital of Argentina, but there are different neighborhoods, and there's one neighborhood that's called La Boca, and in La Boca there is a small street called Caminito, and Caminito was kind of a melting pot for immigrants, and a lot of artists ended up in that area as well. But that's like in a nutshell what Caminito means.
Well,
and because
wonderful.
I'm from Argentina, I figure that I needed to bring a little bit of home here.
And it must have very bright, vibrant colors.
It does. It does. The area, the neighborhood that I kind of took the inspiration out of, which is La Boca, these immigrants were very, very poor, and they were living in little huts or little small town, little houses, and they would paint their houses with the leftover paints that they were working at the harbor. So whatever paint they had left over from the shipyard, they would bring home and paint their houses. So whenever they run out of one paint, they continue with a different color.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you did show me a little picture of that, so I got an idea of the flavor of that neighborhood. Must have been interesting growing up there. And so therefore you found out you wanted to express yourself through art, and you have really gone into a lot of different media. So how did you get into that particular mode of making artwork and creating things?
Well, maybe I should backtrack a little bit. Okay. I always loved art since I was a little kid. And of course, you know, the nerves of being a senior in high school and trying to figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life, I decided I wanted to do art, and I wanted to go to art school. And my father actually forbid me from doing that. And he said, no, you're not going to art school. So I ended up going to architecture school, which that didn't pan out. I mean, I love architecture, I love the design part of it, but I just can't do numbers. So I ended up going to graphic design, and so it was always in the art, somewhat artistic, you know, subjects, but never the fine arts, which is what I really wanted to do. But
that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of my background.
So that's how you got into this art and creating all these beautiful works.
Right.
How
and
interesting.
I'm a little bit of that kind of artist that I don't want to say the word boring, but I do get a little anxious if I stay in the same media or the same style all the time. I have to, you know, it's like I have so much inside of me that as you can tell by the studio, there's just so much variety. And I go through spurts of different times, different type of media or whatever.
Well, I admire you very much for your creativity and for doing that. And I was going to ask you what inspires you to create these interesting pieces. But you kind of described that.
Yeah.
You grew up loving art.
I always did. And I take my inspiration from everyday occurrences, from things that happen. For instance, this is an example, you know, I started doing horses on January 2nd of 2014 because it was the year of the horse. And that kind of took me a whole, you know, I never done horses, but I shouldn't say that. I did draw and paint some horses before.
But really to go into it.
Yeah, I really got into it, and I studied a lot of anatomy. I really put a lot of effort to learn my subject. So that's what I'm saying, 2014 was when I started with horses. I didn't do much before that.
But
In
I
horses.
think horses would be so difficult to create. Just one thing to draw them, but then to make a sculpture.
Right. Well,
That's very difficult.
it is. And one of the difficult parts of horses, too, is that they all have their own personality. And they're not static. So they're, most of my horses are in movement, or they're kind of portraying something. And
Oh, yeah.
so that's probably why I never got into horses before, because I wasn't sure if I was going to capture that.
Oh.
And, 2014, saying that it was a year of the horse, I decided to do it, and I did it.
That's perfect. Now I'm going to ask you to describe some of your works of art, and I think we should go to the horse first.
Okay.
You've got a gorgeous blue horse here.
This piece right here, his name is Free Willy.
Free Wheelie.
Free Willy.
I get it.
And it's actually inspired. Right at that moment, I was reading and studying a lot about Chinese horses, in particular the Tang Dynasty.
Okay.
There's some horses at the Minneapolis Institute of Art.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Which I went there several times to capture and look at them. But this does have a Chinese influence in that it has that little bit of a Tang Dynasty influence in it. However, I did a little more of an abstract form here, and I mounted it on a wheel, and it actually was a little bit of it was right about that time a friend of mine was fighting for the good treatment of horses. A lot of the countries in South America and other countries in the world, they mistreat the animals, they mistreat horses, and they demand a lot of the horses, and sometimes they just drop dead because they're not taken care of. So this was kind of an inspiration of, like a little bit of an awareness piece, if so to speak. That's why it's called Free Willy.
It's very nice.
So,
and I like the concept
yeah,
a lot.
thank you.
And of course, being an animal person, I totally understand what you're saying. And a little bit later, we'll walk around the studio, and we'll see some other horses in your studio.
Yes.
But that's gorgeous. That caught my eye right away.
Yep.
Now, I see you've incorporated that into some of your china or your porcelain. Would you talk about that?
Well, this was a phase that I did. A friend of mine and I, quite a few months ago, we bought a bunch of plates from the Goodwill, and we decided we wanted to try and experiment with glaze and plates. I have done this several years ago. I tried a little bit, but I was distracted by something else, so I never really dove into it. But this time, this summer was a bit too busy for me, and I couldn't really do a whole lot of sculpture because I didn't have the time that I needed to dedicate to the sculpture. So it was like a perfect marriage between paint and working with glazes and stuff like that. So I draw a lot of horses. I do paint and draw a lot of horses. So that was kind of a natural, passage into painting these in plates, and people hang them on the wall, or you can put it on shelves.
Oh, I know a lot of horse lovers.
Right. These pieces, they're not meant to be eaten from. My dinner sets.
Okay.
Right. I would say that that's more of a decorative piece.
Can we hold this one up a little?
Sure.
Oh my goodness, it's heavy.
Yeah. This is a serving platter, and this is, all the glazes are safe. So if somebody wants to serve cookies or whatever it is, it can be done. My intention was to be a decorative piece.
Oh yeah, because look at all the work you put into this.
Right, and I don't want to cover it with food.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
It would be awful to put a cookie on there. because you've just got a beautiful work of art. And
Right.
such
So
a
that was
gorgeous
my
animal.
intention. Yeah.
And your colors, the way you've used the colors or the glazes or whatever they are is
Thank you.
very
These are all
attractive.
glazes. They go in the kiln, so they can go in the microwave. I mean, they're
Oh,
safe. Oh,
okay.
definitely. Yes, yes. I wouldn't put this in the microwave because it won't fit.
No,
'Cause it's
I was
too
starting
big.
to think about that.
But my
Pretty
dishes,
big.
yes. So after I started doing this, a lot of people said, well, I would like dishes that I can actually eat out of, like dinnerware.
Oh, yes,
And-
of course. So I
and-
think you're making a little segue into something
Right.
else, right?
Right.
One of these. And you've got another little theme going here with fish.
Well, it was actually natural because of the shape of the plate.
yeah.
I wanted to keep the inside of the plate where the food goes clear. And horses was a little difficult to fit in just the
Yeah,
rim.
I
But
could
the
say
natural thing was
that
a
would be.
fish, the koi in particular. I think I love koi. I always had koi
yes.
in my, in my yard, my pond at home. And it was just a natural thing. And I always admired the movement. And this was like the movement of the koi for me.
That's very nice.
So these dinner sets are meant to be a set that you can actually eat out of.
Oh, boy, that's great.
And they are dishwasher safe. Well, I wouldn't put it in the dishwasher for a different reason, but they are microwave safe.
I totally get it. You really should be careful.
Right, with anything.
But of course, if it's fired in the kiln,
Oh yeah.
is that it's okay for?
Oh yeah, this can go in the oven.
Okay.
You can heat something in the oven and it'll be fine. Microwave safe. Yep.
So, and then you've got a few other decorative plates there.
And then, in the front there, there's some decorative plates, that we can talk about.
Very
And there's
nice.
also some fish more for the local people.
Oh, yes.
So these are more like lake fish. And,
Okay.
these are some walleye.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, it's
these are
very
some of
popular around here. We're in Wisconsin after all. so-
Right. So these plates are kind of created with that in mind.
Nice.
Okay, well,
Very
something
nice.
that if you don't have a koi pond,
Oh, yeah.
this will touch everybody.
Yes. So then do you actually buy the plates as they are and then you design,
Yes.
put the design on?
I do. These plates are, I call them upcycling.
Oh,
And I don't know if you can,
yeah.
if you can see that.
Uh-huh.
But I call it upcycling because what it is a plate that I buy and I actually glaze. But because they are fired, they're totally safe.
Very nice.
So they're not painted with just regular paint. They are fired with glazes. So
Those are very attractive. I can see why people enjoy that. And you've got other little ways to display the horse, the fish, and some birds and some different things around the studio here I've seen. You can make coasters,
oh yes.
or you can make like three-dimensional birds to go anywhere. And I think you've made a really good use out of those kind of products. And I know people like them. I do. I have a collection of birds in my house.
That's great.
And I love that, and I love the different colors and everything. So that's very interesting. Is there anything else you want to describe?
Well,
or should
maybe
we-
the totems, they're very
Okay.
colorful, and those are great for outdoors. I have lots of totems at my home,
Oh, yeah.
and I leave them year round because it's colorful and they
Yes.
just bring joy to me.
And we'll
especially in
show
the
those
winter.
eventually.
Yeah.
But how do you build those?
Those are all
They've
clay.
got different pieces, like,
Yep, and they have a rod inside. So I
Oh,
put the rod
okay.
in the ground,
All
2
right.
feet deep or more.
oh,
That way it'll hold them. hold 'em up, yeah.
sure. And then you've got very colorful.
And they're safe for the winter as long as nobody bumps into it because the clay gets pretty brittle with cold.
Oh.
So if you don't touch them, they're fine. But if you have a dog that brushes through or whatever, they might chip or break easily.
I see. It's kind of like those pots you can't leave out in the garden.
That's a little different because it has water inside.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
it's
true.
the water that breaks the pots. That's why
that's
these
what's-
don't break that easy because they don't have water.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you to talk about one other thing that we'll show a little bit later, and that is your torsos.
Okay.
Because I think they're beautiful.
Thank you.
And I'd really like to feature those.
Okay.
All right? So if you want to talk about that a little, and then we'll put that on the screen while you're
Sure.
describing.
That was another phase of mine, the figure, and especially the woman figure, the female torsos in particular. I always loved the curves of a female body. I mean, I think they're, you know, I love the harmony and the curvature. You know, I'm no skinny, so most of my torsos are not skinny either.
Let's not go there, Genie.
But what I like about the figure is the curves, so I need the curves. So,
And it's very difficult to reproduce something like that. So now when you're starting with that, you're not starting with ceramic. How do you build a torso or even a horse design? What's the process for that?
You know, that's kind of an interesting question because not all my pieces are built the same.
Oh.
I have different techniques for different pieces. And a lot of times I have to come up with my own technique.
Okay.
Most of the horses, like Free Wheelie, he's hollow inside. All my pieces are hollow.
Oh.
But some of them start hollow from the beginning, and some of them I carve later
Okay.
to be able to get them hollow into the kiln. Otherwise, they will blow up.
I see. So you have to have a way to make some kind of an outer layer.
Right.
And then you can go from that.
Right. But sometimes it's just the clay that holds it.
And then you are molding the clay on top.
Well, sometimes I do
Sometimes.
and sometimes I don't. Depends on the piece.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's interesting.
Yep. The smaller horses, I just figure, you know, I put them into the shapes that I want right off the clay.
Oh.
I don't put them on top of anything.
But if it were a
I
bigger
form them.
horse,
Then I would.
you need something to hold
I need the structure. Yeah.
the structure. Okay. Well, I'm just trying to learn because I am not an expert in art. But it's very interesting to hear you. Now, as far as this workshop, do you ever do classes or?
I do. I offer a lot of classes. I do offer pottery. I have 4 wheels in the studio.
Oh, good.
So I can offer pottery classes. I also teach slab building. I also teach sculpture. And I don't schedule any classes, but I do invite people to come. You know, I do group classes or private lessons too.
Oh, that's very nice.
So, yeah,
and we are going to give your phone number and your website later.
Okay.
So I know one day I came here and there were some different projects going on, so I thought you must have had a class that day.
I did.
whatever.
I had
So
just
that
got
was
done with a
interesting.
class. Yes.
Very nice. I know I could use some help in that area. All right, now as far as you mentioned to me you have a show you like to be in every year, but you haven't always made it every year because of your schedule. But where might we find you at an art show in Hudson?
Well, my pieces are at the FIPS, or a lot of the work
I
is at
didn't
the
know
FIPS.
that.
Yeah, but
Great.
I try to come to the Spirit of the St. Croix Art Fair, but not every year I can make it. Last year I didn't make it. It was a busy year for me, and I was not able to make it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That
otherwise I'll be in Minneapolis at the Art World show, which is a Northeast Minneapolis show.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be
So-
there in May, and then some other shows around
Okay.
the area too.
You'll have to keep me informed.
Okay.
All right. And if you do go back to Spirit of St. Croix, just send me an email so
Sure.
I know. And so we're going to put your contact info on the screen, but I just want to make sure you've had a chance to talk about everything you wanted to. So is there anything else you would like to mention today? because I really enjoyed interviewing you.
Good.
I learned a lot.
Well, I guess the only thing I would say is that I want to make people comfortable with art. I don't want anybody thinking, oh, I can never do something like that.
Right.
There's always a good chance that, you know, if you give it a try and with my help, you can come up with something really cool on your own.
Oh, and that's such a neat thing when you have your own piece of art.
Right, right. But I encourage people that think that they're not artistic, because I've had people coming with, you know, making pieces that they would have thought or dreamt that they would have been able to make.
Really?
Yes. So I always encourage people, just give it a try.
That's a great attitude. Well, I really enjoyed talking with you today. And I just want to thank you so much for, I know one of your artist friends got us together. And
Yes.
I was very pleased about that. And I'm just happy I got out here to see your work. And what an enjoyable talk this was to learn about art from you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Genie.
Yeah.
And I hope our audience enjoyed it too. And stay tuned, we'll show you some more information. Thanks for watching today.